Okay, you got to your page or whatever you're going to start.
Alright, yeah, so I'm going to go to a couple different pages.
Alright, so I'm just going to say action and you just go and then we'll just edit to wherever you need to start.
Okay.
You don't have to start immediately, just flow into it.
Yeah.
Alright,
Yeah.
so action.
Okay. Welcome back to LLS Chess Life. In the previous video, I talked about how the pieces move and how they relate to life in general. And in the next video, or in this video, I'm going to go over some opening tips for developing your opening game. But before I do that, I just want to I want to talk briefly about the point values of each of the pieces. I believe I have not covered that, so I'm going to do that at this time. Each piece has a point value, and I'm going to start with the king. The king does not have a point value. Its point value, I would say, is priceless, because if the king gets captured or taken or whatever the case, that's the end of the game. That's checkmate. Pawns are worth 1 point. Pawns are, the weakest pieces on the board as far as abilities and moves go. That's why they're worth just 1 point. The bishops are worth 3 points. The knights are also worth 3 points. The rooks are worth 5 points. And then the queens are worth 9 or 10 points. So that's how the pieces are evaluated as far as points go, as far as their point value. Now, this evaluation only applies to these pieces in the beginning of the game, because as the positions are developed on each side, those point values could change. In the modern era, bishops are believed to be of more value than knights overall, because they can get down the board much faster than the knights. They cover more squares, and most importantly, they can stalemate a knight. They can also stop a pawn from being promoted in 1 to 2 moves. Actually, could stop a pawn from anywhere on the board, especially if it's an end game where you just have a pawn, for example, in the corner about to get promoted. A bishop could be all the way back here and could stop that pawn just by moving here. And that pawn could still get promoted, but then the pawn would be, or that newly promoted piece would be captured. So that's still preventing that pawn from being able to be used as a queen. So get more into that when it comes to end games. But for now, I want to focus on the opening, and I want to give some tips for developing a strong opening on the board. So as I've mentioned before, this is the opening. Chess is divided into 3 parts. The opening, which is what we'll talk about today. The middle game, which we'll talk about in a later video. and the end game, which is the most important part of the game, is finishing off your opponent or ending the game in general, whether it's a stalemate or whether you end up losing. Either way it goes, the end game is the most important part, because the end game is what decides whether you win, lose, or draw. So, top tips for the opening. Do not move a piece twice during opening, because that hinders your development overall of your other pieces. The knights should generally be brought out before their respective bishops. So you definitely want to bring out the knights first. And the reason I say that is because the knights are like your scouts, horses. Horses can jump over pieces, as we've talked about before. And they automatically control the center. They're already attacking on the first move. Bishops can't really be brought out to begin with, because you have to move the pawn first. It is preferable to bring out both knights before you play your queen's bishop. So before you play this bishop, you want to make sure that you bring out both of your knights. Develop both sides as evenly as possible. As you can see in this diagram, or in this video, if I bring out some pieces, I'm developing both sides. If I bring out the bishop, or if I bring out these bishops, you can see that both sides are as even as possible. They are identical, if you will. And then I can bring out a queen to this spot. That allows me the option of castling on the queen's side, but I also have the option of castling on the king's side. And I may have had the board set up wrong, but the queen could be brought out here, and then that would allow you to castle on the queen's side. But you also have the option of castling on the king's side. And notice when you castle, you have both of your rooks that have the ability to come towards the center of the board. In the opening, it is not well, or as well, not to play any of your pieces beyond your own side of the board, except in very special situations, i.e. checkmate, check. So in this case, perfect example, I'm going to go to this position here. Okay, so in this position, let's just say black's pieces are underdeveloped. And you have pieces that generally aren't in good situations. The development is poor, as you can see on black's side, and where white's development, they are attacking squares. They have four really good attacking pieces out, and they're controlling the center of the board here, where black only has the one knight, and it just moved a bunch of pawns, for all intents and purposes, for demonstration purposes. So in that special occasion, you have the ability to move here with the knight, and then you move here, which formulates a two-way combo attack where the knight is attacking both this rook and the queen. So the rook is gonna, you're gonna win one of these two pieces with the knight, and there's no way that can be stopped, because the king can't take the knight because it's protected by the bishop, and the queen or the rook or no other piece for that matter is in position to prevent one of these two pieces from being lost. So as you can see, the knight is well in the enemy territory, but the knight is still protected by the bishop because of its long range. And that's just one of many examples. The main example, and I'm sure that many experienced chess players have seen this before. It is a simple, what we call a 4-move checkmate. Could be known as fool's mate. With the pieces, and that depends on the opponent's development. So let's say I move here, and then black's wasting their time with side pawn movements, moving pawns that are they're totally useless in the beginning of the game. So then that's the second move for white, and then black comes out with the knight, and then white comes out with the queen, and then you got another side pawn. This is an easy checkmate. It's so easy that you can do it with the bishop too. That's checkmate. That's one of those fool's mates, because black has no idea how to play the game as far as position goes.